Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. Proverbs chapter 5 is kind of a sexy chapter, but I feel like we've been together a long time, you and me, and I think we can do this. uh, it's 10 o'clock. It's time for 10 with Tim. My name is Tim Harris. We do go verse by verse. If we didn't go verse by verse, probably we could talk each other into skipping verses like most of Proverbs chapter 5. Actually, I'm kidding you guys. I think it's so important. Uh, I think it's so important. This is a conversation of wisdom between a father and a son in Proverbs chapter 5. And I pray to God that there are conversations like this that are still happening in families and households across this nation. My fear is that there aren't, you know. If there ever was a time when sons got talks like this from their fathers, I'm afraid those times are gone. Our sons are now, discipled not by godly fathers and even godly, pastors and leaders at church. Our sons are discipled by other, ignorant boys or, even worse, internet pornography is discipling a generation of our young people. And if it doesn't terrify you, then you're not paying attention. So Proverbs chapter 5, I know it's awkward and some of us are older and we just think, gosh, could we skip this? No, let's do it. Let's walk right through it. My son, pay attention to my wisdom in verse 1. Again, the conversation here is sort of set up as a conversation between father and son. That doesn't mean that the wisdom isn't broadly applicable. If it's God's truth, it's going to be truth for everybody all the time in all the places. And I think that's why this chapter is so important for us today. If you're reading this and you're female, I don't think it takes a great leap to apply all these lessons to yourself as well. There are some pretty slick dudes out there who would love to get you into his bed, and you need the same kind of wisdom and discipline that Proverbs chapter 5 is talking about. Do I really need to say that? If I do, I just did. So how is that? There are actually 3 of these long speeches, talking about sexual temptation. This one, of course, and then chapter 6 we'll get to tomorrow, just part of chapter 6. And then again, all of chapter 7, I believe, is similarly expressing admonitions against sexual temptation. Verses 2 and 3 are tied together by the word lips, of course. It's a poetic, slick little connection there. Your lips will express what you've learned, but the lips of the immoral woman, and from there we go. Her lips are sweet as honey. Her mouth is smoother than oil. There are many very erotic images in this chapter that either translators, try to sort of, bend around so they don't, upset church people. But honestly, part of what's beautiful about this passage is the way it highlights the beauty of sexual relations between a wife and her husband. And while some people would say, yeah, sex is God's idea for procreation, it's the way there's not one place in this whole chapter where it talks about having babies. It's just, wow, sex is beautiful. It's fun. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong. I mean, it's beautiful. And it's between a husband and a wife, and what the husband and wife share is so beautiful and so secret and so powerful and beautiful and all those words. I mean, I don't know why even in church we've not managed to get that message across that it's for pleasure, and it's such a powerful and beautiful thing. And that's why the devil attacks it. That's why when it comes to God's word, you just have to have these incredible passionate speeches about resisting the temptation to go outside of the moral boundaries for sexual satisfaction. And this is what the strange woman, this woman whose lips are sweeter than honey, represents here. Verse 7, my sons. Notice how in verse 1 it's my son, in verse 7 it's my sons. So now it's like every boy in the neighborhood, listen to me now. Never stray from what I'm about to say. Stay away from her. Don't go near the door of her house. Hebrews says, remove your path far from her door. Remove your path far away from her. Don't go near her door. The point is, when it comes to sexual temptation, you want to have a wide margin in your life. I know as kids sometimes, I was youth director for years, and you talk about sexual temptation, and the first question kids used to ask me was, well, how far can we go? How far on a date can I go? In other words, Tell me where the line is, because I want to dangle my toe right across that. I want to get as close to the line as you. Tell me exactly how far can I go, and the attitude here is, how far can I stay away from temptation? That's what Proverbs says, and that's where wisdom is. And we're not just talking about kids. I think that's the other problem in church life. We think that sexual purity is just a message for the teenagers. And I've been a pastor long enough to tell you there's a whole lot of senior adults that really need to hear this. I mean, really, really need to hear this. And excuse me if I get a little, pastorly there, but you know what I mean? It's not just a message for teenagers. You keep a wide margin. You stay as far away from the temptation. In other words, first off, you just got to keep a growing relationship with Christ. Invest in your relationship with Christ so that you can have strength to stand against all kinds of temptation. You got to have a growing relationship with Christ. Number two, I would say you got to avoid all inappropriate situations and places. If you were very tempted because of the guys at work, or the whatever, go get another job. You can find another job easier than you can find another, mother for your children. So I'm just saying, you do what it takes to protect your sexual purity and to avoid temptation. If you can't have a phone without going to look at pornography, then you don't need a phone. I mean, you'd survive without a phone. And this is what Proverbs is trying to say. You got to get really serious about avoiding this temptation. I would say never be alone with the wrong people. I mean, this is what he says. Don't go near her door, but some of us, gosh, we're a little bit attracted to this person. They kind of feels electric when we're with them. And so we just kind of find ways to drop by and be with them and cut it out. You are playing with fire. And this is what Proverbs says. I think, especially when you're married, you got to surround yourself with people that are in healthy marriages. There's something about, you'll watch divorce kind of move through a social group. It's like everybody at the same time decides to ditch their husbands or, ditch their wives. And surround yourself with godly people in godly marriages. Surround yourself with friends who aren't just your friend, but they're friends of your marriage. In other words, if they see you going off a cliff, they're going, for the sake of your wife, they're going to stand up and wave their arms and stop you from throwing everything away. Because that's what verses 9 to 14 represent for me. Verses 9 to 14 sort of talk about all that you got to lose. And I would say that when it comes to, you're wanting to mess with sexual temptation, just remember all that you have to lose. Like you fire team guys right now, you dads, who have this, pornography habit. Just what if your son were to pick up your iPad or your iPhone and stumble into your internet history? Like, how would you ever explain that to him? What you would lose in the eyes of your son there is not worth whatever it is that you want to put before your eyes today. Do you understand that? Whatever you got to lose, it's not worth it. And this is what 9 to 14 is all about. The day's going to come and you're going, man, why didn't I listen to the preacher when he said, you know what I mean? That's what 9 to 14 is all about. Verses 15 to 20 are beautiful. They're just about, hey, sex is for marriage. And stay at home with your wife, drink water from your own well. Again, that's a highly erotic image. Share your love only with your wife. Actually, I think it's like don't spray your water in the public square. I mean, it's that kind of image against fountains and wells. It's that kind of image. Why spill the water of your springs in the streets, having sex with just anyone? Save it for yourselves. Sex is beautiful, but it is this intimate secret that a husband and wife share, and you guard that, you protect that, forever. She's a loving deer, a graceful doe. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. Now, the point, of course, is she's not always going to be young. You're not either. Verse 19. I won't read the whole thing to you, but I think you can see right there the beautiful biblical encouragement to enjoy each other's nakedness. I mean, can I say that? I mean, we know each other, right? We're friends. Because what I'm not saying is worse than what I just said. I mean, husbands and wives, gosh, you've been married 50, 60 years, and don't you still want to be lovers? I know it's not maybe the way it was before you both had CPAP machine. I'm sorry. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, you lose a little something when you both got a CPAP machine, and and hot flashes and everything else, I mean, steam coming off your wife in the bed just because she's going through the change. And I know, but still, may you always be intoxicated by her love. That's what verse 19 says. May you always be. In other words, you don't ever get too old for that, and you don't ever want to get to the place where you live in a house with somebody like a stranger. What God raises up here for marriage is such a beautiful, and desirable thing. And this is the point. The devil despises that. The devil will try in every way to cause you to waste your strength when you're young and give up your sexual purity. And then as soon as you're married, to do everything he can to ruin your sex life in marriage. I mean, obviously this is very close to our souls, because the devil works so hard to destroy us, to wreck us in this particular important area of our lives. May you always be intoxicated by her love. New Living Translation says captivated, but the word there is drunken, intoxicated. It's important because the last verse 23, again, talking about the person who walks into sin, he will die for lack of self-control. He will be drunk on his own stupidity, is basically what the Hebrew says. But again, it ties back. You want to be, drunk, on the love of your wife, and the other alternative is just be, drunk on stupid, And I'm just afraid, like I said, that so many young people these days are not getting these conversations at home or in church and anywhere. They're being discipled by a wicked and perverse and so empty sexualized culture, and whole generation about to be drunk on stupid, So there's Proverbs chapter 5. Read it out loud to your grandkids today. How about that? And everybody else in your life who needs to know what wisdom is about. There's nobody else in our culture who's saying these things, y'all. If the people of God don't, we're in trouble. We're all going to be drunk on stupid, right? Tomorrow, chapter 6, we'll pick up right here. Chapter 6, verses 1 to 35. We'll get to take a little bit of break. There's a little bit of sexual content in tomorrow and the day after, but it's a Proverbs. It's so good. I'm enjoying it, and I hope you are as well. Stay in the Word, stay close to the Lord, and I'll see you in the morning, Lord willing, 10 o'clock for 10 with Tim.